assuming you have used the DDD, you already have the source code, you know what it is, and the intention of this guide is to show you how to clone the source code from your GitHub repo or GitLab. And once you have it on your development machine, how you can get started, how to run the development servers, and you'll find this useful in case you wish to continue developing and adding more features onto the DDD, as well as fixing bugs and errors that you might encounter. So let's first start off with this presentation. So what are we going to cover today? So the first thing we're going to cover is how to set up a development environment on a Linux desktop PC. So like I'll just stress this. If you are going to work on this source code, make sure you use either a Linux desktop machine or Mac OS, because on those two systems, the compilation and also running the development servers is a bit faster. On Windows, you'll face issues, most probably when installing packages for the front end using yarn and also the proper NodeJS version. Again, you'll have issues when trying to run the development environment for the front end. It takes up a lot of resources, it will hog your CPU, and that's not a good thing. So make sure you have a Linux desktop PC. The other thing we are going to go through is how to install the requirements. These are packages and also packages for both the front end and the back end. And the third thing is that I'm going to show you how to run a development server for the backend using Docker and Docker Compose. The last thing we're going to cover is how to set up again a development environment for the front end, which is based on Node.js. So we are going to use Node.js and Yarn Package Manager for that. So just to recap on the requirements, a Linux PC, Ubuntu desktop, or Fedora Workstation. For mine, I'm using Fedora Workstation 40. I'll show you that. Just make sure it has at least 8 GB of RAM, because you're going to use Docker containers, and at least you need to have a RAM that's enough for your system, as well as the Docker containers that you're going to set up. So the other thing, make sure you have Node.js version 16, or you can use Node Version Manager. So Node Version Manager is a package that enables you to be able to have different versions of Node installed on your machine, and then you can be able to switch on the proper version that you want to use. So in my case, I'm using NVM, and I've set my Node version to version 16. Remember, this is what is used for the front end. Again, the other thing you need is the Yarn Package Manager for Node.js. I'm going to show you how that's installed, but I'm sure you are aware of this if you have done any Node.js development, especially React. So Yarn is another alternative to using NPM. So by default, Node uses NPM to install packages, but for this particular project, Yarn is the preferred version manager, package manager that is. The other thing you need is Python version 3.11.x. So that X stands for anything that's 3.11 and above. Also make sure you have Docker and Docker Compose installed. The other thing that we need is make tools. So this is a utility to just run the make command. So it's like an alias for your commands. So since we have a make file in this project, you'll find make a bit easier. You'll need to have make, so it will make your life easier when trying to set up the Docker containers for the backend. The other thing you need, just ensure you have a internet connection, a proper internet connection that can be that is reliable, so that you can clone the repo as well as install the required packages for this process. So let me switch now to my terminal. But before I do that, let me just go to my browser so that I can show you a few things related to these requirements. So first, you can see you can head out once you have your Fedora or your Ubuntu desktop machine set out. You can head to the official Docker page, documentation page, and then you'll see that there we have instructions on how to install Docker and the Docker engine, as well as Docker Compose. So you can see for this we have Fedora, which is what I'm using. Again, the same we have for Node.js. So how to install Node.js if you are using Arch Linux, if you are using CentOS, if you are using Fedora, you can see there is the command on how to install Node.js. Again, like I mentioned, you'll need this make tool. Just do this sudo dnf install make. If you are using Ubuntu, it's apt. I think it's sudo apt install make. So don't include this GCC, because this is required for C++ and you're not doing that. The other thing is finally, once you have Node.js installed, how to install Yarn, and this is the command. You can see you install Yarn using the npm package manager, and once you have it, just make sure you run this command to ensure that you have it installed. So let me go to my terminal now. So let me just show you my Python version. So the first thing, as you can see here from this previous command, I'm using Fedora Linux 40 Workstation Edition. So the good thing about Linux OS is free, so you can always download it whenever you want. I'm using it. I'm using a virtual machine on VMware, so this is where I'm running this video. So the first thing to do is do Python -v. It will show you the version of Python that you have. You can see for mine is 3.12, so this came installed by default with this Fedora. The other thing I went ahead and installed is Node, and if you do that, you can see I have version 16, which is what is required for this project. The other thing is Docker. So if I do Docker -v, you can see I have this version 27 of Docker, which I think is the latest version. Again, you can do Docker Compose, and then version. This is how you check the version, your version of Docker Compose. You can see that's the version of Docker Compose that I have. The other thing is, like I mentioned, you need make. So if I do make version, you can see I have this make installed. It's a very small package. So version 4, whichever version, it works. And then the other thing that is yarn. Like I said, you need yarn. So you can see I have yarn version 1.18. So let me clear my screen. So the first thing, make sure you clone your GitHub your GitHub repo for the digital dashboard onto your local development machine, and then navigate to that directory. So you can see mine is on desktop, then inside coding, then digital dashboard. So I'm going to open up VSCode now. So just do code. So make sure you have VSCode installed. Again, if you go online and just search VSCode for Fedora or for Ubuntu, you'll get the instructions, and then you can right away install it. So the first time you run VSCode and you open this particular project for the DDD, you'll get some recommendation on some extensions that you can install. On that pop-up, it will be on your bottom right. Make sure you click install. If you already have them, it won't show you, but if you see any recommendation for a particular extension, just do that. So those recommendations are in this VSCode folder. If you go to this extensions.json, you can see these are the recommended extensions that you need to have to properly work with it, this repository. Again, we have the settings, but again, you can always ignore that. Those are for VSCode, so you don't have to worry about those. We are particularly interested in the development. So once you open this particular repository, head to this readme.md file so that you can check out the steps on how to get started. So as you can see, we have development requirements. As you can see, Docker Compose, yarn. Ignore this other two, but if you are using macOS, just make sure you install this virtual wrapper. You can see the URL is there. I think it's used when you are using Podman instead of Docker on macOS. Then the other thing that we have is the getting started section. So this guides you on how to get started with development on this particular repo. So the first thing is to make a copy of the environment file. So we have the templates for that. You can see first we are going to copy this and then copy the .template to .env and then do the same for the front end folder. So I'll just copy these three commands. Right click, then just do copy, then go to my terminal and paste them there. And I hope once I do that, these files have already been copied. So for example, if I come to the root, I can see I already have this .env. I have this one again created. So yeah, let me just go ahead and start with this .env. So the first thing we're going to do on this particular .env file is adding the secret key, the Django secret key. Again, you don't have to generate that yourself. You can go online and search for Django secret key generator. Open this URL, as you can see, and then click on this generate button. It will generate a random key for you. Then copy that key, come back to the project, paste that key there. Then again, scroll. You can leave the AWS as it is, the email as they are. Then Sentry, again it's false. So this we won't change much. So just change this is demo site to true. That particular variable should be true. Then add an example email for this SU user. So for mine, I'm just going to put my name and then just put .example, maybe DDD. And then for these other two, I'm just going to comment them out. They'll be added when generating the demo data. The other thing, everything else you can leave as it is. Let's just add this upload secret 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't think there's anything else to add except for one more variable, which I'm going to add here at the top, or rather after the secret key. I'm going to add a debug variable and put it to true. So this is used for development. Django uses this so that it can be able to show you debug messages in case of errors. So once I have that, I think we are halfway done for the backend. So the other thing is just now to do Docker. So let's just go back to the README file for a moment so that we can see the next step. So step 2 is, again, you can see adding the secret key, setting its demo site to true, adding the demo SU emails, which we have done. And then the step 3, we have installing packages for the front end using yarn, and then doing yarn web start. So let's do that. So on this terminal window, I'm going to do yarn. So remember, by just doing yarn, you can either do yarn or yarn install. So it will install the packages. So it will check out the package.json file in this project, and then it will go ahead and start installing those particular packages. So again, as that continues, let me just open another tab on this terminal. So I'll just click that plus, and then let me just maximize, zoom in a bit so that you can see. So on this other terminal, if we continue with these instructions, you can see on another terminal, just do make base, then make build, then make demo. So as you can see, we are using this make command. So this make command checks this make file here inside the project. Let me just open it up a bit. So for example, when we say make base, you can see this make base is just translated into Docker build, and then it will build an image based from the base Docker file. So I can show you where that base Docker file is. It's inside this contrib folder. So if you come to this contrib, then this base, you can see we have the base Docker file. It's just, it pulls a Python image, sets this variable, then we install Postgres client, again we install NodeJS, then we install a particular few utilities that might be useful inside that image. And then finally we just install pip, and then we clean up. So as you can see, so that's make base, it will do that. Make build, again, will build from this Docker compose. There is a service called web, it will be built up. And then finally, when you do make demo, it will now run the container with the backend. So you can see make demo is just translated to Docker compose app, and then this demo service. So that demo service will make sure that Postgres, Redis, everything else required is installed. Those are Docker images that will be pulled. So let me do that now. Let me go to this particular new tab on my terminal and do make base. So I'm expecting some few errors, which I'm going to show you how to, in case we have an error, I'll show you as we continue how to fix that. So let's hope there is none for now. So you can see that make base is working. So it's pulling, again, like I said, that base, it's building from that base Docker file. So I would recommend you just do one thing at a time, because it might affect your internet speed. As you can see here, we are getting a warning about some packages taking a bit long to download, but again, let's hope it finishes. So let me just cancel this out so that we just do one at a time. Let's let this one finish. So I'll just do both make base and installation, and then I'll continue. So let me just pause the video, and then I'll continue once they are done. Okay, now that the yarn install has finished, and then also I've done that make base just to build the base image. But you'll notice once the make base finishes, you can just do Docker images just to see what images have been downloaded. So you can see we have now two images. One is tagged as 0.5 and the other one is tagged latest. They are both of the same size. So this is just one image, don't worry. If you go the other tab where I was running yarn install, that completed. So if I do yarn install again, you can see there's nothing to install. It has already finished. And then Yeah, you can see it's done. So to start the front-end web server, you need to do yarn web and then start. So that's the command to start. Again, you can see that's the command from the readme file. Let me just go back there. So you can see you do yarn and then you do yarn web start. So that this yarn web start is what will start the front-end development environment, which is a React server, and then it will run on port 3000. So let me do that. So as you can see, it's doing a few things. So again, if you go through the source code, you'll notice we have installed Krakow. So Krakow is just overrides some JavaScript settings. Normally, when you start a React project, you do it using create React app. But you'll find that when you use create React app, you might need to add some custom configurations to how things are done. So Krakow is a package that enables you to do that. So, but you don't have to worry about it. You can just ignore it. The thing you need to know is that that's how you start the development and server for the front end. As you can see, it's starting. It will open a page on your browser on port 3000. As you can see, localhost port 3000. So let's give it time. As it does that, we can go back to the previous terminal tab, and then let me just clear this. So remember I said after make base, the second command to run is make build. So this again will go ahead and create the web image. So this will be an image tagged web or dev, or rather, yeah, sorry, it will be tagged dev. So that is the image that where the directory for the source code is mounted, requirements for the backend are installed, and everything else. So as you interact with the code, you'll realize where we have split these steps into two, where we don't do these steps in the first Docker file. So this ensures at least the base image stays the same, and then the other image is just purely now meant for development. So you can see this supports the source code is mounted there, so any changes that you make on the source code will be reloaded, and then you'll get them applied live. So as you can see, the development server for the front end is taking quite some time. This is because I'm using a virtual machine. So this is a virtual machine, not on bare metal, so it might take some time, but again, like I said, this is much faster on Fedora and Ubuntu. Don't use Windows. Windows will take much longer. So let's give it time. Again, you can see the other image is going on. So I'll just pause the video and then I'll continue once all this. Okay, so guys, as you can see, the make build command has finished. So you can see it has taken 3 or 2 seconds. Remember, like I said, this is a virtual machine. That's why it's a bit slower. But if you install Docker if you install this Fedora directly on your laptop and you follow these steps, it will be quite easy and faster. So you can see also the front end has finished compiling, and then it has finished running the development server for it. It's running on localhost 3000. So if we go to my browser now on that localhost 3000, let me just reload this. So let me do that. So you can see the DDD is loading. So that means we are good with the front end. So the other thing, let me see. So let's go back to the README. So once remember this, we are doing in parallel the front end and back end. So the make commands are specific for the back end. The yarn and yarn web start are only for the front end, which is done. So make base is done, make build is done. So now let's do the make demo so that we start the other required services. Remember, like I said, this make demo, if you go to the make file, you'll see it's just a Docker Compose app demo. So if we go to this Docker Compose file and then we go to the you can see there are several services. We have DB, which is an image for Postgres. We have Redis, again it pulls that, then does the port mapping. Then we have PG Bouncer, which is a proxy for proxying connections to Postgres from Django. And then you can see now here we have the demo service. So you can see it will build from that context, and then the image, it will use that dev image that I mentioned during the make build step. And then it will start the server. How to start the Django server inside, we use gunicorn. So it will be bound to port 8001. So localhost port 8001 is where once the dev server for the backend is up. That's where you can connect it from the browser. Then a few environment files, you can see the .env that we created is loaded here, so that those variables are used for development. And then we mount the volumes. Finally, you can see it depends on Redis and PG Bouncer, and Redis itself depends on the DB, which is Postgres. So this will start everything. So let me go to my terminal, and then on this specific tab, let me do make a demo now. So this should not take long because the Postgres image is not that big, as well as the PG Bouncer and also Redis. So let it pull that. So let's see on the browser how the DDD looks like. So you can see this is how it is. You can see looks exactly as it is on production. So now you have done it. You have your local development DDD running for the front end. So here it is. You can see it has that email that we added. It will pick that demo user email. Currently it's just showing the demo, picking from the cache. But you can see this is a demo site. Remember, locally it's a demo site. If we go to the env for the demo, for the front end, the env for the front end, the env file for the front end is located in front end web. Then it's this .dev.env. So you can see its demo site is set to true. That's why you can see that banner. You can see the API URL, which is the backend. It's set to port 8001. So nothing else to worry about this for the demo. But if it was production, maybe you change this is demo to false. And then you don't use React Firebase for your case, so you can ignore that. But if you use React Firebase, you can see the settings are there laid out for you to fill in. This captcha key, you can keep it as it is, and then maybe you can change. If you create a Sentry account for login, you can again change this to your own organization name on Sentry. Remember, Sentry is just a service online to collect runtime logs. So we use this for production, but for your case you don't need to, so you can just leave that as it is. So let me just close that file. Let me close the Docker Compose, the make file, the env file, the Docker file, and just leave the README. So the make demo is what is currently ongoing. Let's see where we are at. So you can see we have already pulled Redis, we have pulled PG Bouncer. Now we are pulling the DB, which is based on Postgres. It's about to finish downloading. So let me just pause, and then I'll show you once it's done how everything looks like. Yeah, so guys, you can see the make demo is still going. I had to cancel it and then start it again because on this virtual machine I've allocated just 2 cores. So if you come to this source code, I'm just mentioning this so that you are aware. So on this Docker Compose for the demo, you can see when we start GUnicorn, we set initially the number of workers was set to 5, and then the threads was set to 5. So you can see that's a lot. The recommended number of workers should match your cores. So since I have 2 cores, I've set 2 workers and then 2 threads per worker, and then increased the timeout from 120 to 160. So, and then I've rerun the make demo again. So there it is. You can see it's applying the Django migrations. And then once it finishes doing that, it will then start the Django server on port 8001. So again, just a few more seconds, and then that will be it. So as it does that, let me just go back to VSCode and mention a few more things. So if you're working with this code, just know the front end is located in this front end folder, and the Django backend, you need to edit files in this backend folder. So if you need to change anything for the front end, you come to this front end, then this UI folder. From the documentation provided, this is mentioned. This is where the source code for the front end is. So front end UI, then you go to the source, and then everything, the components, data fetching, everything is here. So for example, if you go to lib, that's where you'll find the GraphQL, the context. We use the context API for this React app, and then some temporary things, some utils. Again, you can see we have the components themselves. So we have like alerts. So one thing to mention is that the main package used for the front end is React MUI, which is the material UI. So that's what you use for the front end. And then we use Apollo client for handling the GraphQL requests between the front end and the back end. For the backend, again, this is the folder. So again, we have several Django apps, as you can see: accounts, API, content, dashboard. You can this is the settings folder. This is the project folder for Django TBI dashboard. So if you expand this, you'll find the settings.py file. So this is where all environment variables are loaded and the settings for the app are set. As you can see, this the secret key is fetched from the environment file and then it's set there. And then again, something worth mentioning is that for the backend, we use a package for GraphQL called Strawberry GraphQL. So that's what we use. So let me just go back to the terminal. So you can see now the server is running on port 8001. So let me go back to the browser and reload this page so that now it connects to the API on the backend. So let's give it time. As it does that, so like I mentioned, for the front end, we use this React MUI. So if you search on Google, you'll see that. So this is the library that we use for the front end. You can always check out the documentation. And then for the back end, we use Strawberry. So if you just do Strawberry Django, you'll see that's the package that we use. So this strawberry.rocks, click on that, and then that's the documentation. You can follow through. So let me just go back to the source code and show you. So if you come to this backend requirements, you'll see we have requirements for dev. You can ignore this. These are just the black formatter and such related packages, but the main packages are here. So you can see we have the Django packages that we use. So everything is in this requirements.txt file. So let me go back to the README and see what else remains. So there's this make demo worker. So this is used to execute the asynchronous tasks. So things like sending emails, things like notifications, things like exporting data, all those are we do them in Django as asynchronous tasks. So we use that Django queue package. So this demo worker will just start another instance of demo, but it won't start it on the it won't have a listener that is listening on a particular port, but rather it will execute a particular command called Django queue. So you can you can always check that online, and also you can see it from the documentation PDF for the source code that has been provided to you. So just know you can do this. For this case, we won't do that because it's a VM, it's already overloaded. But yeah, let's see. Let me just check. Let me open another terminal tab. Let me see the amount of memory that I have. Maybe if it's enough, I can just do that. So let me do free minus mh. So I think I have 2.7 gigabytes available. Let me check from the system monitor for Fedora. So there's this system monitor. It's like the task manager on Windows. So this will show you. So we can see the CPU. It's not that much loaded. So we have like 34 on the. So this is not really that bad. So I think we can do that. Make demo worker. So we can do that. So this, remember, this will just start something similar to this, but it won't start the Django server, but rather it will execute the executor for Django queue. So let me just press enter. As you can see, it depends on those already created DB Redis and Postgres containers, so it's not really doing much. No migrations to apply. And then you'll see the final command is just the Django queue to just listen for any asynchronous tasks. So you can see this is the command, python manage.py queue cluster. So if you go online, you can check out the documentation for that package for asynchronous tasks. It's called Django queue. So if you search for that, you can see here it is. So Django queue, you can see we use it minimally. We don't use all these configurations. We just use it for asynchronous tasks. So yeah. So that's that. The last thing now we need to do, now that we have all containers running, is to make sure that we have sample data. So for example, if I try to log in now, I'll get the error message for use incorrect email or password. But the reason for that is that we don't have any demo data. We don't have logins for that user. So the final step is just to open a final terminal window. So you can see in total you just need to open 4 windows. So for the last one, I'll need to do 2 commands. One is to get into this container, to get inside this container. So that's that command is make demo let's go back to the readme. So that container is make demo bash. So if you come to this make file and you check out this demo bash command, you can just see it's just docker compose exec, which is used to get inside a container, and we specify it's the demo, and then we execute the bash command. So let me just do that so that you can see what that is. So make demo bash. So you can see now I'm inside that container's shell. So now what I need to do here is just to generate the demo data. To do that, there is this command we have already created on Django. So python manage.py, then setup demo. So as it does that, let me go back to this. So if you have created any Django commands before, you know they are created inside the management folder of your Django app. So for example, that setup demo is inside this dashboard, management, commands, and then we have this, where is it, setup demo. And you'll see the reason, if you come to this file, this setup demo.py file, you'll see we are checking for this setting for is demo site. So if this demo site is false, this command won't execute any further, it will just return. But if it's true, it will then continue. So that's why in the .env file, we had to set this to true, so that you can be able to set up the demo data. But again, like I mentioned before, never set that value to true on your production server, as it will mess things up, because that setup demo is meant to run every hour, and then if it executes on your production server, imagine it will delete the database, do fresh migrations, and then overwrite your production data with the demo data, which is not something that you want. So make sure on your production server, never change that variable to true. Make sure that on the production server, the settings stay as we initially set them, so you don't need to change anything for that. So you can see it's doing the migrations afresh. Then let's see. So there are several migrations. Like I said, this is a VM, that's why it's each migration is taking like maybe a half a second. But if this was a real PC installed with this Fedora, this will just take a few seconds to finish these migrations. So you can see now we are setting the demo data. So let's give it, normally it takes like 5 seconds. So in this case, we can give it 10. So let's see. So let's give it a few more seconds. Yeah, you can see it has completed. Once it has completed, we just exit out of that container, and let me clear my screen. So now if I come back to the browser and now I click on sign in, it should now sign in and load. You should see a demo dashboard. So you can see it's successful. So now it's loading the home page. So remember, like I said, this is a VM, that's why it's a bit slow, so bear with me. But if you install Fedora directly on your laptop, this will be something that opens up in a few seconds. So as you can see, there it is. We have this post-COVID, which is based on our demo data. So now with this demo data, you'll find you can start doing development very easily. So at least you have data to work with. So you don't need to copy production data on your development machine. Again, you can come to this user icon, click on that user icon to open this option menu, and then you can see the switch dashboard option. So this demo data, we have dashboards for different languages. As you can see, we have the current one is English. You can switch you can switch to this one for French if you are a French user. And again, if you are a Portuguese user, you can switch to this demo version for Portuguese. And then so let me now show you something simple. So we are going to change, maybe for this example, I'm going to assume maybe this DDD is used by the Ministry of Finance. So I'm going to change something here. So let me just log out so that we change the login page a bit. So let me just sign out there. So let's try to change let's change this title from delivery dashboard to delivery dashboard, and then we add on to it the name of the ministry as well as this part here. So I'll show you. So that's a front-end change. So let's go to the source code. So now I'm just showing you an example on how you can do development. So let's go to the front end. Remember I said code changes are on the front end. Let me close these files, we don't need them now. So front end, then UI, then source, and since we are modifying the login screen, it's inside this auth folder. So if you go to login and then you come to this, let's see, I think it's this layout. Let me see. Yeah, I think it's this. So there's this auth screen layout component. So I can just change this and add, maybe I can say ministry example, and then that's it. Let's see. Well, let's save. So when you save, the development server should reload, should detect the changes that you've made, and then it should reload the development server to show the changes. So you can see when I've clicked save, there's something going on here with this ESLint. So ESLint is doing something here. Let's give it time. Again, let's see something that, so like I said, that's the front end. We have done that change on the front end. If you want to change anything with the backend, this is the folder backend. Then maybe on this this accounts folder is for everything related with users. So you can see that it only user settings. So they are grouped into specific folders. The API itself, where we have the GraphQL mutations and types and everything, it's inside this API. And then version 2, this version 2 folder. So, and then we have content for another, this is for project models and priority area models. Again, the other thing we have is this dashboard, where we have again some management commands, and then models for the dashboard of dashboards, import, export. And finally, the other applications, application that we have, I think, is the demo and the email. So this is for sending emails. There's no models in it. The demo is where we have that data for the demo dashboard. And then, like I said, this is the Django project folder. So where we have the settings.py file. So let me see. I think now that reload has worked. So if we come to this front end, you can see the change we've made there. It is so digital delivery dashboard, ministry example. If you want to build this into production, you can just do you can just stop this yarn web start. So you can control C to stop it, then clear. Then we can do yarn. If we do yarn web build, it will build it into static HTML locally. So let me do that. So let's build that change of ours. So you can see it runs this Krakow build. Again, once as it's building that, it's worth mentioning that if you come to this, so those scripts are inside this front end. So that web start and web build for the front end is inside this front end web folder. So this web folder, if you come to its package.json file, you can see this is where we have those scripts, the start, we have also test, we have lint, if you want to lint, we have serve, which once you build, you can use this serve to serve that build folder. So that's what I'm going to show you next. So you can see we also have, so you can ignore these ones that have to do with the demo, prod stage. You can ignore those. We were using them on our side for Firebase and stuff. So if you have maybe, so this is useful if you have a demo, like a demo server, like a test server, where you, a staging server, but you can always ignore them. For now, just pay attention to this build and that start for running the development server. So let's see if the build has finished. So it's creating. Normally building doesn't take much time. Again, if we do, let me show you the Docker images so that you can see all the images that you expect to be built once you successfully run these make commands. So you can see finally we have Postgres image downloaded version 13. We have Redis downloaded version 7. We have PG Bouncer. We have then base that is tagged latest, the base tagged 0.5, and then we have this dev container where now dev changes are being that is used for development, for active development. So you can see those the size of which it's quite the backend is quite big because of the size of the packages, and also remember it's based on Ubuntu, so Ubuntu itself is a large operating system. So but yeah, since this is development, don't worry about that. And then what else, if you do Docker volumes, you can check the mounted volumes where the demo data for Postgres is. So you can do Docker volume ls. So you can see we have 2 digital dashboard Postgres data and another one that is randomly named, but this is the one that you should be interested in. So in case you need to start afresh, you can always delete this and then it will create a new one and do fresh migrations. What else? Docker, if you do Docker PS, you can see all the currently running services. So you can see we have the demo worker. Remember I said the worker is just for executing asynchronous tasks. We have the demo itself that is running the backend API server, and then we have PG bouncer, which is just a proxy. We have Postgres, and then finally we have Redis. So if you come to this worker, you can see it's just listening for any particular events that might need to be executed. So for example, when you run the setup demo, since it's creating some users and everything, you'll see that there are some processing that happened. So when the demo users were being created, so this is normally the invite notification that's sent when someone is added to a dashboard. So this is what was happening here. If we go to this temporary folder, we can see those emails. So there's this temp. So this temp is just for storing your emails when you are doing development. So if I open it, I should have seen some emails. So seems the emails were not sent or something, but yeah, the emails will be placed in this .temp folder. So it will be under .temp and then emails. The settings for that, you will find it in this .env. If you come to this, there's this path, the email backend. Yeah, for now it's set as yeah, so I can see the issue. For now it's set in this directory, but it should be in this temp, but no worries about that. Let me just copy this. So let me copy this and then we can maybe view the emails. But again, this I'm just showing you for your own info. So it hasn't created that directory, but yeah, if any emails are sent, that's where they will go. So let me just try to do something that might trigger the sending of an email. Let me log in to this. So as you can see, it's still running because that's a React app. So it's just running on the browser, but you can see it's now failing to reload because we already stopped. We are still building. Remember we stopped the dev server for the front end. So yeah, you can see we have this issue with the memory. So we have memory issues. So I might need to stop one so that I can successfully build. But again, that should be enough. After you have successfully set up all your services, I think one more thing I should mention is how to bring down how to shut off these containers in case you are done developing. So it's always a good thing to shut down these containers on your machine if you are no longer using them. So if you are not actively developing, maybe you're working on something else, you can always bring down the services. To do that, remember these are just Docker services, Docker Compose services that are running. So just do Docker Compose down and then it will shut down everything. So if I do Docker Compose down, you can see it's shutting down the demo, it's stopping the worker, and then it will stop Postgres and remove it. You can see it's stopping and removing it. So if now I do Docker PS, there's nothing related to the DDD that's running. And also if I do Docker PS and then the -a, there's no dangling images. Again, you can always do Docker prune just to remove anything that you don't wish that maybe might be consuming space. Currently there is none, but that's a good command to use. I think it's Docker image prune. So it's Docker image prune. So yeah, currently there's nothing to delete, but yeah, that's how you bring them down. Alternatively, you can just do Control-C in each terminal, but the disadvantage of that is that that image for that running container, if you do Docker PS -a, it will still be there and then it will be consuming unnecessary space. So always use the Docker compose. Just manually do Docker compose down. Also, I think it's on this. If you come to this make file, you can just do make down. So alternatively, you can just do make down. So let's see this make file here. There is that down command. It's stop, so it's make stop, not make down. So Docker compose stop down. So if you do make stop, it will stop all those containers. Yeah. If you follow this particular video correctly, you will be able to get started with the development of the code, and you will find it a bit easier to set up your own development environment. So thank you guys, and cheers.